Join me in a word of prayer. In the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts, be acceptable in your sight, the Lord our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So yesterday, at the Missional Discovery Journey meeting that we had, we studied prayer a little bit, and you just kind of pray constantly. And one prayer you can do is just use a line, and just use it over and over again throughout the day, whenever you feel like you need to pray. Just use that one line throughout the day, and just leave it at that. And one line could be the line that the tax collector said, God be merciful to me a sinner. All throughout the day, you just say, just pause once in a while and just say, God be merciful to me a sinner. And then move on to whatever it is you're doing. A few minutes later, stop again and say, God be merciful to me a sinner, and move on. I'm trying to remind you of that because I just threw that in 2 minutes ago. So I have some stories, because when you look at this, what Jesus is saying, this parable, we all know this, right? This moral cannot be more simple. The Pharisees wrong, and tax collectors right. Okay? Moral of the story is, don't think too highly of yourself. Say, God, be merciful to me a sinner. That's, there's not a whole lot I can say about that because it's that simple. So, I got to start with a couple stories. Hopefully they're humorous stories. I read these a couple weeks ago. Here we go. The first one. A carpet layer is laying carpet in his family's house. He's got the whole living room all done. He's all done. It's all stretched down. It's all nailed against the side of the wall. He's all done. So he goes outside to have himself a cigarette. Good job, well done. Goes outside. Goes outside to have a cigarette and can't find a pack of cigarettes. Has no idea where they are. Has to go back inside and look, where did I put them? There in the middle of the room. Under newly laid carpet. Right smack dab in the middle. There's a lump. Cigarettes. I got to tear the whole thing apart. What am I going to do? Tear the whole carpet apart just to get that pack of cigarettes? He thinks himself, no, I don't do all that work. So he just hammers it all down. Nice and flat. Everything is fixed. Nobody will ever know. So the owner of the house comes in and says, hey, I think I found your pack of cigarettes that are sitting on the kitchen counter. Must be yours because we don't smoke. And he says, oh, well, thank you. And she says, I'm looking for my pet parakeet. Oops. Okay, so that's one. Here's another story. A certain fellow finds himself, he's died, he's in heaven, he's at the pearly gates, and there's Peter standing at the gates. He says, welcome on in. Just a little thing before you go on in. Everybody needs 1,000 points to get in. You got to have 1,000 points of credit to get in. So, tell me what you've done, and the final will give you your 1,000 points. So the fellow thinks and thinks and thinks and says, well, I've been pretty good. Yeah, I've been church just about every single Sunday. I was on council, we did a building project, I helped lead that. I even took a youth on conservative events, I even helped teach confirmation classes in the choir all the time. Really good. And Peter says, hey, that's cool. You got like 285 points. Well, way to go. You still need 1,000, but you're fourth the way there. So the guy thinks really hard. He says, well, I used to be a Boy Scout, so I helped out a lot of hourly wage, a lot of sweets, when I was young. I did a lot of community stuff. It was awful. United Way, I was always there, right? Giving the United Way. So a lot of people, when they came around by every single time, I didn't say I had other things to do. I went and gave blood, gallons of blood in my lifetime. St. Peter says, wow, that is awesome. I mean, I've never heard this much stuff. You have now 425 points. But, still need 1,000. Fellow says, there's nothing. I can't think of a single other thing. All I can do is beg for God's mercy. Peter says, you're in. That's 1,000 points right there. Okay. Read those 2 stories off. They were pretty good. Because after all, like I say, the gospel story for today is really obvious. I mean, you can't get more clear than this. The Pharisees wrong, the tax collectors right. The Pharisees standing there saying what a great guy he is, all the wonderful things he does. He's not like that lousy, stinking tax collector. Thank God for that. way. I haven't yelled at my kids. I haven't thought any bad thoughts at all. But Lord, you know, I'm going to get out of bed pretty soon, and then it's all downhill. Well, I can just tell jokes. So like I said, the moral of the story that Jesus tells is so simple, I had to come up with more stuff to fulfill it. But the thing is, we like being the Pharisee. Even though we know we're supposed to be the tax collector, we like being the Pharisee. We like pointing fingers at others so we don't have to point fingers at ourselves. We like saying, well, finally, those people are getting what they deserve. What did they think was going to happen if they kept on doing things that way? Or we say stuff like, I am. Or we do things like, well, those people would just learn a few things, and those people would be better off than them. And people who are less well off than we are, always think, well, if they would just pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, then they could make themselves something. And of course, those who are much better off than we are, we think, well, who do they think they are? They're so big, they have so much stuff. Why do they think they deserve all that stuff? You see, point. We love pointing at others. We are the Pharisees, even though we know that's not what we're supposed to be. We always like to think we're special. God likes us better than other people. We may admire the tax collector. We may admire that he is kneeling down and asking for God's mercy. We may know that is exactly what we're supposed to do. But then we think, well, you know, if the tax collector would have chosen a different line of work, that would be called practice tolerance. See, pointing once again. It sure is easy being the Pharisee, and it is a lot of fun. Even when we know the moral of the story, we know full well the Pharisee is wrong. We just can't put ourselves in the position of the tax collector simply begging for the mercy of God. So what do we do now? I don't think we can get away from our human nature. So what do we do? Maybe the best we can do is simply acknowledge that that is who we are, and then just like the tax collector, just keep begging God for God's mercy. Those three stories, they were funny stories, and they were funny because there's some truth to them all. We're like those people. Take the carpet layer. Obviously, he saw the lump in the middle of the new carpet. Obviously, the right thing to do would have been to remove the carpet, take out whatever it is that lump, and then put the carpet back, right? Obviously, that's what he should have done. How often do we do the exact same thing? We make a mistake, we do something that's wrong, and then instead of fixing the mistake and owning up to it, we cover it over. We smash it down, we cover it over, and nobody ever notices that anything went wrong. How does that work for you? I mean, sometimes it actually works, doesn't it? You make mistakes, you cover them over, nobody ever finds out you're guilty, but you feel all sorts of shame and guilt, but nobody ever finds out you did something wrong, so it's okay. Eventually, you even forget all about it. But sometimes people find out you did something wrong, and then what you do, you get covered over even more, right? Kind of like politicians, they're really good at that, right? It's like they take a class in it, how to make mistakes and cover it over. Politicians, they always do that. See how easy it is to point fingers? Those politicians.